Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta, no matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. Our new series, Showbiz Squad, continues. Now, don't say I don't do nice things for you, because this one is going to be absolutely epic. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
All right, boys and girls, I did tell you this is a special one. For me, kind of iconic in many ways. I'm going to try not to be too much of a plank when I talk to this exceptional artisan, auteur. I've been following her career for many, many years, and I'm delighted to welcome her to Showbiz Squad. She has appeared in many fabulous movies, but we are here today to talk about her epic directorial debut. Also wrote and produced this monster of a movie. Welcome to Squad Central, Jennifer Esposito.
Wow. Well, can I come here every day? That was so nice. Thank you.
I would love it.
Thank
Our
you.
listeners are going to love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Really. I appreciate it.
How are you this now you're in New York right now, correct?
I am. I'm in New York. It's Monday and it's another week getting this movie out there. I've been calling it, don't get me wrong, I love it. I'm so proud of it, but I've been calling it the Circle of Hell at this point because it's been a road. It's been a road.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it's funny because our listeners, primarily, of course, we're a sports channel. We have 16,000 fabulous subscribers across the universe, multiple cultures and diversity. They've self-labeled themselves squaddies, Jennifer, and they've become really good friends from like Sierra Leone to India to the United States to England to Australia.
Love that.
And they love their movies. So it's funny, we always end up somehow talking about music, film, but they love their movies. And so I started this new series because it taps back into my days as a publicist working for 20th Century Fox and Sony Pictures. I never had the pleasure to work on one of your movies or look after you. No. Although I did actually do the PR for I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, that was an Academy Award. They missed that one. They missed that one. My goodness.
But here we are, just to give you some background too. So let's talk about this. We have a mutual friend who's also a producer on the movie, and I kept seeing clips and trailers, and I'm like, what is this film? And I watched it, and I was absolutely blown away by it. And one of the things I always say to our listeners is nothing happens overnight. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, 15 years, to say it's a labor of love, I think is a major understatement. Mortgaged your house. You did all the things they tell you not to do.
Yep.
So you kind of maybe went from fearful to fearless. Talk to me about that.
I have fearless on my wrist.
No way.
Yeah, because
I did not know that.
Yeah, you just it's not the absence of fear, it's going forward anyway, and that's something that's very important to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I would even say 30 years ago, like literally aging myself as a kid. I grew up around young women, because if people don't know, it takes place in a mafia family. So I grew up around young women my age as a teenager who were extremely violent and rageful. And I ran a lot from these young women, and they were all mafia daughters. And wow. I'm a very big why person. So I was around violence in my home and violence outside my home. So it kind of was like, yeah, I violent. But I chalked it up to, oh, well, their families are in the mafia, so I guess that would make you rageful. And as I left Staten Island and I went into the city and put myself through acting school and then got into the business, and then just being female and being told who I was, what I was capable of, too much, not enough, too cute, not cute enough, all the things. And I realized, and then being in a business that literally my size 9 foot was not fitting into the size 7 for many reasons. When I came up, we all had to be Julia Roberts. Like, I was literally told by a manager, you should be more like Cameron Diaz. And I was like, I don't know how an Italian from Brooklyn around mafia is like Cameron Diaz. So there was just like no place for me. And I kept getting pushed into this spot and realizing the rage that I saw started to become my own.
Wow.
And I realized it had nothing to do with their family. It has to do with choice. And it had to do with being born into a slot as a female. And this is your journey. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I thought, I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm just not okay with why are the rules different for me. And then you add all the other stuff on. And I realized, whether they knew it or not, this is what I was taking from it. It was about choice, is being born into something you didn't choose. And that could be mafia, that could be violence, that could be alcoholism, drugs, it's the generational trauma. And like I said, it's choice. It's about finding a voice in a world that tells you not to have one. So I just got to a point in my career where I had tried to play along. I had tried to do the things. I really did try, but I just, even the thing they tell you got to be grateful. You just got to be grateful you're here and you have a job. And I think that's such a toxic, especially they do it to women. And yeah, be grateful for walking and being alive, but just because you want more and you're saying, no, I want different, or I want more, it doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you want more, but it's a way of keeping you in a spot. So all of it just built up at a certain point. And I just thought, stop complaining, because I'd, complain. I'd go to the marches. I'd do all the things. I'd get on these activist groups and disappointed every time. And I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing except complaining? And you think you can do this thing, because I had this script in my head for a very long time and no one cared. And it was like, well, then write it. Go ahead, do it. And it was like, oh, Jesus, now you got to show up. And I sat at this very table about 5-6 years ago now. And I said, I'm not getting up until I finish it. I'm not getting up until I finish this script. And that's what I did. And then, every day, little by little, trying to get people to read it and listen. And Christine, who we both know, was the first person who read it and said, I'm in. Let's go do this. And it's been a journey.
It has been a journey. I almost feel like, I think the film will continue to be a journey for you, because it's really a legacy piece for all of the reasons that you just expressed and explained. And it's interesting you use the word choice, because as I was watching the film, Fresh Kills, by the way, you guys, and it's available on Apple Prime Video and Vudu. Go download it, buy it today. And the hopelessness part, what I loved about the way you weaved and wrote the story was the choice part is definitely profound between especially the two sisters. But then this underlying theme, the mafia theme, is already like difficult and, harsh. But then when you add this thread in there of the hopelessness, and I think your character, Francine, evokes that the most. And it trickles down to to maybe Connie more than Rose, and then you have the wonderful and amazing Annabella Sciorra and her character of Christine that's kind of halfway. She still kind of believes and passes that on maybe, but doesn't. But that hopelessness, I think, that really hits you in the heart a lot in your movie. Was that something that you kind of dovetailed with the choice?
Yes, yes, and this is why I love art, because what everyone sees what they see, and that is what I love. So I don't know if I'd necessarily go into Francine as an actor or a writer with a negative of hopelessness. So, because everybody thinks they're trying their best, everyone. Even if they somehow, somewhere think, maybe I'm not doing such a great job, they're going to keep like, well, no, but they'll make an excuse. And Francine is definitely not that evolved. So it was an underlying fleeting thought of, we're never getting out of here. However, there's also something else there that is, well, this life was good enough for me. Why isn't it good enough for you? And that's a really big thing that I witnessed in my own home. I witnessed out on the streets around me. It was, is this wanting more? But, you know, that's not going to happen for us. And yeah, we can dream, but you need to stay put because that's life. And Rose pressing up against that, and that's a really big screw you to Francine. That's like, how dare you think you're better than me? I heard that on repeat in my neighborhood where I grew up. And it's like, why? Because I want something more. I want to leave here. And that is something everybody can relate to if they've ever broken out of a cycle of whatever cycle their family is in, or their friends, or, you know, anybody who tries to go down a different road. It's like, it's not easy. It's not easy. So I don't know, for me, if I'd call it hopelessness, because it's to play someone, to go into something playing someone hopeless would be defeat. And I don't think Francine was ready to be defeated. But yeah, there was a multitude of complexity. And, you know, that's why I started getting so beyond upset in the business I was in, because the complexity for female characters just was not there. It's just not there. So the fact that we can have a conversation about who this person is, that's the goal.
Yeah. You know, it's really, what you say is so true. You know, I mean, I worked in distribution in the studio system for a number of years, and there was always a hierarchy to everything. There was a lot of formulaic, you know, stuff. I think cinema today, I know there are a lot of my listeners who love the Marvel comic movies and all of that, but you know, sometimes I just go back as a Generation Xer to watch certain films, especially in certain genres, because they just don't make movies like that anymore. Or now I appreciate the fact that women like you have kind of broken the borders and are taking ownership of their ideas and, you know, putting all of that out there, because it has been a difficult, tough road for women in the industry, and it still is.
Yes, it is.
A difficult road. And look at you, you're a SAG award winner, an Academy Award winning movie. You've been on, you've worked with Spike Lee, you've worked with Paul Haggis, you've worked with all of these directors, you've been in some of the best TV shows. And yet for you, it was hard, almost impossible to do this without, like you said, putting it out there and doing it yourself. Why is that still happening?
You know, Why ask why at this point? It's just, listen, I think about it this way. People in power usually want to stay in power. There's nothing really hard to understand about that. And the people in power are generally very wealthy white men. And like I said, who wants to give up their power? And, allowing different voices to come in, especially females, it's a change of culture. And I don't think there's a lot of people that don't want the change of culture. If you think about the movies and the shows we've grown up on, it's all been male focused. Everything has been male focused. We have learned to see ourselves through the male gaze. Everything, even things that you thought were progressive 10 years ago, you watch them and you're like, holy hell, like what was I conditioned to think?
True.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I didn't even, waking up to it. But I will say that the further issues we had was I was the first female stepping into a really, really macho, masculine genre. Not one female has ever stepped foot in the mafia genre. And I am the first female to not only direct something, but write something and then flip it into the female point of view. And I thought it would be like, wow, a new idea. But it wasn't. And it still isn't, to be quite honest.
Well, they can say what they want because the film is critically acclaimed. Some amazing reviews across the board. And the things that they're saying about your movie is, phenomenal. They're talking about the performances, and that's where I want to get to next, of Emily and Odessa as being in a top 15 favorites. That's from Deadline of the genre. Film festival, I don't like to use the word darling, but I'm going to, because talk about the importance still of film festivals and how gems can be discovered and found through wonderful audiences still embracing really good movies. And your casting, I think our listeners may have seen Emily and Odessa in a couple of other things, but for me, these are breakout roles. It's kind of like, wow. It reminds me of those performances that you see, Jennifer, where you're just blown away. And to some people, it will be like, where did they come from? They were
100%.
superb.
I agree. They it's funny because now they're both blowing up, like literally blowing up. And there wasn't a real, like, Emily had to push herself in the door to get through, and found her in a pile of no's. And she's, and I understand, because everything now to get funding for film is not about who's the best for the role. It's about who's going to bring money. So, but these two women are extraordinary. And that's why I'm pushing so hard, because trying to get this movie seen and get them noticed, and it's not about awards. It's about respect of something that matters. I think it's a really important movie. And I think the performances are on a level that need to be recognized. I really do. I have a real problem with injustice, and that, it's literally, it has been tricky to even get it out there. We have no marketing dollars, no big place, studio, anything came and like swooped us up. It was like, let's push this out. Nobody.
Yeah.
So,
And it's interesting. I hope the same kind of movement happens. I can't remember the name of the actress. She was in an indie movie. She played an alcoholic, and her performance was,
Leslie, Andrea Riseborough. She was amazing.
Yes. And there was a movement to get her nominated. It's like, why aren't you watching this film and seeing this incredible performance? And I really hope that happens for Emily and Odessa, because they deserve it.
I agree.
There's two scenes where I was just like, my jaw in terms of the relationship between the two, but then maybe discovering each of them, just how different they are. The one in the car, this particular
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
but then the one in the bathroom, which Odessa just, like, I mean, she just jumps off the screen. Emily in the car scene is just like incredible. Did you let them improvise at all in that bathroom scene, or was that all?
I tell you, it was very close to almost exact, but for Odessa, I tell you, funny story. So Emily had been with me for about a week prior to we were filming, and Odessa wasn't there yet. She hadn't come to town, and she came to town into we were like 5 days in, and she had 1 or 2 scenes, and then we had that scene. And Emily, you know, how she's playing everything else is very quiet and very introverted, and we don't see this part of her. So I don't think Odessa was ready for what Emily. I was even at the monitor like, oh, I was just like, I was freaking out. And then I saw Odessa's face like, oh, I really better show up here. She almost looked like taken back. And I took her aside and I said, you ready to go? Because she's ready to go, man. Like she's ready to go. I said, and she was like, yeah. She's like, so can I use, because I knew what she was working with personally. And I said, whatever you need to do to connect, because I also have taught throughout my career, and I teach acting, and I that's my language. So I said, whatever you're doing and using, whatever you need to connect my words to your, whatever you're using, whatever that is, use it. And the line, which is great at the end when she says, I don't like you. And that was her. That was her.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's such a good scene. I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah.
You guys know I love like getting deep into my film conversations, but I don't want to ruin anything for our listeners. But those 2 scenes in particular were like totally wow. And they did an amazing job. The young actors also. Now, if I remember correctly, I may have seen you post something about David and how he only had 2 scenes.
Yep.
And you wrote him into more. Is that how hard, by the way, when you've got a script and it's in the bank and you're ready to go, how did you maneuver, and what was the scene that kind of drove you to thinking, oh man, this kid needs more screen time?
So that scene where you see him with Emily, it's Rose and Bobby. That was his first scene on set with me. And of course they have to kiss or whatever. And this kid showed up and I was like, this kid's a star. They made that scene. It was funny. Christine said it. They made that scene into like a Tennessee Williams play. I was like, what just happened here? It was just beautiful. And he's open. And I said, David, what about this and that? And he was just so open and so trained. You can tell training, but then just raw, very open, just beautiful. And literally we weren't even finished with the scene. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put him in that. I'm going to put him in that. And I said, are you available this week? And he was like, yeah, what are we doing? I was like, I need you to come back. I need you in this more. He was like, whatever you got, let's go. I was like, okay. So he was awesome. And listen, that's the beauty in, I came up through independent films. I came up through theater and doing, off Broadway, off Broadway, where, you're bringing in your own clothes and you're working with these artists, and I'd get changed in, back of trucks and do these indie films. And that's the beauty of doing that and doing 10 pages a day, is because I was so ready. I knew that you have to have freedom within the boundary. So the script was the boundary. I know what I need. I know what I want. I know the pieces. But if you do not take your hands off the reins, to allow the piece to breathe and allow to see what's happening and see how the people are interacting. Because I can write this till I'm blue in the face, but then the actors come, and that's the difference between, I think, some directors and an actor director, because you understand what the actors bring is beautiful. And it's not just say the words that I wrote. It's like, let them see what we have here. And I just knew that I needed to put him in. So when he was the piece when they're in the parking lot and he's on the car and he's like, come on, get out of the car. Can you just get out of the car? I was like, show up and I'll figure something out. And I was like, okay, jump on the car and you're going to be like in the car, like, come on. And that was it. That was it.
I love it.
And then also outside the church.
Yeah. See, you're the actors must love working with directors like you, and you probably really enjoyed working with directors like that in your career, but also with them being young, you've been there. You've been in that moment of just starting out, breakout roles. Did you kind of take on this, as well as being the director and being the custodian of this film and needing to make everything like perfect? Did you find yourself kind of wanting to nurture them in different ways, having been in that position yourself?
100%, especially the women. You know, I have been there, and sadly, my road was not their road. So I have battle scars and stories and warning tales. What really, really meant a lot to me, Odessa came up to me the last day of her shooting and she said, this is the most respected and safe I have ever felt on a set. And that really meant the world to me, really meant the world to me. And it shows. Look at the work. They can't do that work if they had someone they didn't trust.
That's a huge compliment.
Oh my God, especially from, you know, being on set so much. And she has done more than the others, and she's been on sets and just making them all feel safe. Even you know, Allie, Nick, who plays Allie in he has a very big scene towards the end that you know what I'm talking about. And he was really in his head, so much so that he was like, I'm ruining the movie. I can't get it. I was like, Nick, what? Go run around the block. What are you doing to yourself right now? What are you doing to yourself? Take a minute, go run around the block, come back here. We're just going to do this. Stop it. And yeah, you have to.
Brilliant.
Because I've been there, you know, I've been there. You don't need someone then yelling at you. You don't need that, because you're going to close up even more. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Wonderful experience.
Yeah, I can only imagine by just seeing their performances. You know, we talk about strong women. One of my favorites, Annabella Sciorra, and you talk about fighting through and coming out the other side. What a fierce! I called you a fierce warrior woman when I first sent you the email, and the two of you together. I mean, just a wonderful actor, and brought a balance to the film that was kind of regal. There was this regal element. Domenick Lombardozzi too. Well, and I want to talk to you about him in a second, but Annabella Sciorra, kind of you and she brought this regalness of this presence that, you know, really good actor that you know and you've seen and has that equity. And the coupling that with the young actors was just this like really beautiful blossom. It was amazing, but she's incredible. And have you guys known each other for a long time? I think you sent her the script like a very long time ago, or told her about the idea.
Yeah, I didn't know her, but I always looked up to her when I was coming up. She was like the only, you know, her and Marissa Tomei. It was like, oh, look, I can do this. You know, it was but I met her some years back in a women's organization type thing. And I just always thought, like, this woman is such a talent and deserves to be working. And if I have anything that I could do to facilitate that, I'm going to facilitate that. And, when I finally, wrote the end on this script, she actually did a reading for me very early on and played Francine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
and loved every minute. The Francine was always mine though, because the person, it's based on someone I know, so it was never a question. It was able to hear it though. But when I finally was ready to do this, I called her and said, Christine, to me, Christine is like really like the heart of the film. Like it's
Mm.
just, she has some moments in there where the whole world stops and it's just this quiet, beautiful, brokenhearted, like it's just, to me it stops time. I think it's just really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. And again, not to give away anything, but there's a scene between her and Rose where they talk about kind of like the hope and life, and it's just really a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Yeah.
But you'll have to watch it, guys, so you can see it.
Yeah.
Dominic,
Yep.
one of those voices that you just love, like you could hear his voice on the radio and be like, that's him. He's
Yeah.
got this distinctive voice. There was a real beautiful humbleness to his performance. And, you talk about this female empowerment of the movie, not only with you, your producers, the cast. And I thought that his performance was this really kind of, even though he's this menacing guy, I like how you didn't have to show the violence in order to feel the pain or the fear. And I thought he played that in a really humble way, but yet there were moments where he didn't even have to say anything, where it was like that you could feel the menace.
100%. And he was one of the first people that I thought about for this role. And when we spoke about it, he was like, I'm not going to be playing like this, Italian mafia guy. I said, you are nothing. That's not this. Your dad. You're playing the dad. That's it. Your dad. That's all I want you to do is play dad, because
Mm.
he has that. He has that. We've seen him in those movies. His presence goes between, oh my God, is he going to kill me? And oh my God, he's lovable. So it was like, you don't need to do anything. Play the dad. Be the dad. This is what you are. This is dad. And he just was, I thought Domenick was just so wonderful and got to show a side that maybe a lot of his roles don't get to
Mm.
show.
Yeah.
So I thought he was just wonderful.
I thought so. And again, the casting, absolutely brilliant. I want to talk to you a little bit with the time that we have left. A couple of things. Firstly, is Jennifer the filmmaker?
Mm,
Because you talked a little bit about the scene with Odessa, and you're getting on set. I feel like, and I don't know you, but it feels like you are so in your happy place
mm.
as the filmmaker versus the actor, even though you still love acting and you teach and everything. I I listened to something where you talked about maybe taking inspiration from Barry Jenkins and
Mm,
Moonlight for this particular film. And by the way, the pacing of the film is perfect. It
thank
just
you.
builds and builds into, and the crescendo, it comes at the perfect time, and you get to know all of the characters and you care for all of the characters too. Um, Jennifer, the filmmaker, who is she?
I I I wanted to go to film school. I don't think I understood really, when you're young, I was put in front of the TV a lot, and the magic of whatever I was seeing, I was like, I want to do that. I didn't necessarily know what that was. And as a kid and growing up, I didn't see any female writers and directors. That's not what we talked about, but I saw actresses. And I thought, that's it. But when it did come time to go to college, I did want to go to NYU and study film. I wanted to study all of it because I wanted to tell stories. And my parents didn't have the money, and I just put myself through acting school figuring I could tell stories as an actress, and it really isn't so. So I have too much to say. It's a sad thing, but
No, it's a beautiful thing.
I think very deeply. I could see something and lament about, and there's a story in my head. Like honestly, it was a manager that actually said to me, she's like, you think like a director, you think like a filmmaker. And I didn't even understand really what that meant until it was like, oh, wait a minute. And coming out the other end after doing this, my friend Alicia, a dear friend of mine, said to me, this has forever changed you. I said, you're 100% right. 100%. This is who I was always supposed to be. 1000%. There's too many stories in my brain. There's too many, and I'm working on like 3 of them right now. And it's hard with my ADHD. It's hard like to focus because I want to go here, I want to go there. And but this is where I was always supposed to be. Like being able to, it's very emotional because to be able to sit down and get through the process, the painful process of writing, getting out of your head and getting it on a page, and then all the bullshit you go through to get it done, and finally mortgaging my house. I don't have any more houses to make movies, so this has got to work better another time, but my next time. But to see it on a screen and to go through all those film festivals every single time, because I'm very much, I don't take moments to like congratulate myself. I don't even take moments to take anything in, which is so not good. And I'm trying to change that. But I would make myself go to the back of the theater at every screening and go and just stand there and say, you're here. These people are in this movie. They're crying, they're laughing, they're applauding. They're here. They're having this experience. That is the joy right there. Forget everything else. That is what I've always wanted to do right there. Unfortunately, the business, it pulls you in 15 different ways. But I made sure that I would stop and take that minute. So I just want to make films. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, well, good for all of us that you want to make films. Do you think do you want to just perform in your own projects now, or are you still, does it have to be something, are your choices different now? You've done your own film and performed in it outside of having the writer, director, producer tag.
It's funny. You would think that I have a ton of choices. I don't even have an agent still. That's how backward this business is. I still don't even have it. I'm not exaggerating. As an actress over 37, you're kind of pushed away. But when I tell you I haven't had an acting audition meeting in years, I mean it.
You're Jennifer Esposito.
No one cares. No one cares.
As older I get, Jennifer, I realize more and more that people don't care.
They don't. And that's why it's like people think I have this, like every actor in my movie is working except me. I literally sit there going, what? And I really, really do believe it's twofold. I really do think it's like, I think the universe is pushing me, like it pushed me with Fresh Kills. It's pushing me to like, yeah, because you know what you're supposed to do. You got to keep work. You got to keep writing. You got to keep doing your thing. but it definitely gets to you. So I don't have these great choices. And I will say, listen, if a great role came along, that'd be awesome. But, you know, I had a manager call me and was like, what about, you know, this show? I can call them. You can maybe play a fire woman. It's like, I just wrote, produced, directed a movie that has a 91 from critics and a 94 in Rotten Tomatoes. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So I teach to make a living because I cannot, but I also love it. I love teaching. I just, no, I'm not
Do you
doing
think it's because you're too much of a truth teller?
100%.
Yeah. They don't like that.
No.
Yeah.
And then to make a film outside the system and have it be that good.
Yeah.
And
They don't like that.
I am not the person that does this, but I know it's a beautiful film. I do know that. And also taking a masculine genre and flipping it. Do you know how many people I heard, women say, why didn't I think of that? It's so obvious there, how we've never seen the female's point of view.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot going on, but
I saw an interview with Domenick where he talked about that. I mean, you've pulled the train into their station, and that makes them very uncomfortable. And long may it continue that other female filmmakers and male filmmakers doesn't just have to, you know, that push the envelope and the conversation to make all of, you know, this kind of stuff. I wanted to just touch on this with you too, because I have been reading, and is this the right email, URL, a rebelliousact.com? Is that where you do your teaching? Is that the landing destination?
let me make sure. I think it's a Rebellious Act production, but that's how sad. That's how my brain is.
I think it's
rebelliousAct.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is is this like a passion? This is a living? This is something you've done for years? Tell us a little bit about that, because we have some budding thespians in our midst here with our US audience.
Yeah, I love teaching. I've taught throughout my career, but during this time of getting we stopped filming 2 years ago, and it's just been an uphill journey to get it out. I really was like losing it. I was like, I need something that is about the work. That's it. I just want to be around artists. And I really, to be honest, never found a community like that for me in the business. It was like, you know, anyway. So I said, do it yourself. So I started this community where I started teaching in COVID. I started online teaching scene study and active being, but it's the way I teach, and I come from method acting, and it gets a bad rap, but I say it's for actors and non-actors. It's connecting with pieces of yourself and putting it into art. So there's those classes, but then I started something called the I'm Sorry monologues, which has blown up. I'm Sorry monologues is for women only. And it basically comes from all of the conditioning and the I'm sorry's that we say in our life, as our life, what we're negating of who we really are, the apologies that show up before we even enter a room, all of the things that we have been told that we're not, we should be. And it's a workshop. And then we basically take these women through this workshop, and they do their own writing about a piece that they're either wanting I'm sorry for or giving the I'm sorry back to themselves. And we created these amazing monologues, and then we put them up at La Mama in Manhattan in theater. And it was, sorry, there's
I love it. It's lovely New York sound effects.
But it was amazing. We had a sold out show at La Mama. We're gearing up to do our second one. We have a community of around 75 women from around the world, like Canada, Switzerland, and it's growing. and it's been amazing.
That's
Really, really
fantastic.
feel very proud of that. And we were making a doc about it. So yeah, hopefully that's going to just keep growing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
arebellioussact.com. Go check it out, guys. And I have to get these quick fire ones out of you, otherwise they won't be happy with me. Now, not necessarily who you've worked with, although you've worked with some great directors, and they'll be like, "Why didn't you ask about Summer of Sam?" You know, and you know, being in a cast of an Academy Award winning film, and that experience, having a SAG, an award from your peers. Spike Lee, was this by coincidence at Tribeca, or is Spike one
No,
of those that shows up for?
you know, I wrote to him so many times about this film, and he would get on and not get on, and I just so badly wanted. He's the guy of the New York story, and this was a very New York story, and I could have used maybe any kind of guidance, but he's a busy man. But I will say, I turned around, and he was suddenly on the red carpet with me, and I thought, wow. That's pretty cool. And he came to support. So I thought that was really nice.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And as you know, our podcast here and our show is very sports driven. This is a new series. They're going to want to know, is Jennifer a sports fan?
It's so funny. Right before I literally pressed, whatever, I'm technically not savvy. I had on my Galaxy female soccer shirt that I just went in a run, and I was too drenched, and I was like, I have to take this off. But I had my female Galaxy, it says Esposito on the back.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
I grew up playing sports, so I love sports. I can't say I watch it regularly, but the Olympics was just on, so I made sure I was watching.
Okay. Well, we're going to send you an Arsenal shirt. That's going to happen, and we'll put Esposito on the back. I always give our guests the last word. What is it I haven't asked you, or what is it you want people to know about your beautiful movie, Fresh Kills, which is available on Apple, Prime, Vudu? Go check it out. Here are the links. Follow the movie, and a beautiful job. Follow Jennifer as well on Instagram. What would you like folks to know and leave them with?
I would just like to say the things that you're not seeing in independent films, because of you're seeing a very limited perspective from one point of view, that you're missing beautiful, beautiful work by not only me and so many other filmmakers. You have to support independent films because you crave better. It's there. You're just not seeing it. So you got to ask yourself why. And then you have to seek out the independent films and push them forward. And when you see this film, if you enjoy this film, get out there, post, tell your friends, leave reviews, Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd. Every bit of it helps. Every bit of it helps, because I like to say they like to keep you numb and dumb. My film doesn't do that. It makes you ask questions. It makes you feel something. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of beautiful indie films out there. So please support.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for hanging out with us. And we appreciate you, and continued luck. And can't wait for your next film. Squaddies, hit the like button and go buy the movie. And we'll see you next time.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.